contracting lab at this time of the program. The Special Virus Cancer Program ran from 1962 to 1978 or thereabouts, and that this company was owned by Litton Industries, major military weapons contractor. The president of Litton was Roy Ash, who was President Nixon's counterpart for the role that Nixon gave Kissinger as national security advisor. Kissinger, of course, is infamous, among many things, many genocidal indictments, of being the author and or primary White House official that advanced National Security Memorandum 200 that called for massive third world depopulation. And so when you study where the money went, who was involved, in fact, all of the money went right from Litton Bionetics to all of the researchers being paid all the contracts under this special program, and the word special in military circles connotes secret. So this was the secret virus cancer program that was allegedly looking for vaccinations and cures for cancer, but in fact was inducing various methods of mass destruction and viruses that would totally wreak havoc with the human immune system, such as we have with HIV, AIDS, and Ebola. And when you start to study breast cancer in Jewish women and Italian women, and they were really even stating in their contracts and summary reports that these types of weapons were being produced, these viruses were having this kind of race-specific effect. I know that Zers Miles, the first researcher that discovered that there were these race-specific agents associated with HIV/AIDS, was a Air Force officer by the name of Zers Miles, who passed the information on to Robert Strecker, who in 1986 was the first American doctor to come out with the allegation that AIDS was man-made. And likewise, Zers Miles read that this was part of a race-specific biological warfare campaign. I also know somebody that's in jail right now. His name is Roger Christie. Roger Christie is a major advocate for marijuana and marijuana law changes, and he runs he ran up until he was infiltrated by FBI and DEA, the marijuana ministry in Hilo, Hawaii, and he was also in the military, and he told me a number of times personally what got him to quit the military and pursue this very alternative and controversial difference of lifestyle and profession is that he came across racial bioweapons in his research and filings while he was in the military. He actually quit the military, he told me, because he came across similar paperwork that appalled him, and he couldn't in good conscience remain in the military.
Thank you, Len. Lua, you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Len, so far those viruses that have been handed out seem to not be killing us as well as they'd like. For instance, SARS was supposed to really decimate the population, but it flubbed by disappearing after a few months. And what I'm wondering, is it possible the Earth can fight back effectively against human attempts at genetic virus manipulation and mutate enough to not work?
Okay, to answer that question, yes, but before I tell you the good news, let me just say that SARS was not flubbed. It's from the sense that you're talking about. Yeah, you could make the claim, and when we define the word flubbed, we might define it appropriately as saying that all of the propaganda and hoopla over it being such a devastating virus that it never happened, just like with H1N1, it never happened. But that's not what it was about. Really, it was about the trial run that would also create the fear and the political motivations to enact legislation that would allow the World Health Organization to call all of the shots in terms of health. And so it was really part of an agenda. It worked. It was great for the Illuminati. It was great for the pharmaceutical industry. It was great for the Rockefeller family and the Rothschild League of Banksters that literally have a desire to have one World Health Organization controlling the behavior of people in every country. And when I say that, for example, here in the United States, you have the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act that has been implemented in most states that gives the World Health Organization in Geneva the power to direct CDC officials as well as every public health officer in every state and province throughout North America to then require certain vaccinations and or drugs to be administered. So by force, the populations can be right now called under a Model State Emergency Health Powers Act and declaration by the Premier and the President of the United States to declare an emergency, which they did with H1N1. So you can see that it was a trial run. It was to establish precedent. It was to publicize this and promote it in the media and the public's mind to accept it. And so it wasn't a flub job. It was a masterfully orchestrated fraud that engages now us in the concept of being taken out, genocide, literally setting us up for the kill, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Just in terms of the second part of your question, I'm surprised that we're still alive at all. I'm really shocked, and it's a tribute to our Creator and the balance on earth as it is in heaven of how to establish equilibrium and basically come back to ultimately creationism, how we're being recreated musically, mathematically. And so, that's a whole topic we'll have to get into more of, but really it's a miracle that we're still here. And I believe that will be additional miracles that bring a lot of people are going to die, but a lot of us are going to make it through this insanity and intoxication. And that it is, in my opinion, a spiritual renaissance that has the greatest potential of helping humanity, helping save the earth, helping save biology, because it's not just against human beings that are at risk, it's against virtually all of biology that we're witnessing degradation and destruction. So spiritually, we need a miracle. We can't have what's taking place change politically. We know that. It's not going to change financially. And we know that. We the people are largely hypnotized. We are degraded in our intelligence and even spirituality, energetically, bioenergetically, psychotronically, said Dennis Kucinich, who ran for president of the United States. There's psychotronic warfare that's happening not only through the media, but through the space-based weaponry that are challenging us energetically through vibrational frequencies, and even today's music, which is standard tuned at A440, which suppresses heart and stimulates fear and ego. And so we're really looking at, we need a miracle, and I believe the miracle is happening. I believe that the 528 Love Revolution is revealing the miracle note. That's the Do Re Mi, Mira Gestorum in Latin means miracles in English. And I believe that this key to the house of David, as I call it, and as I believe you'll call it too when you see all the evidence. And I have a new book called The Book of 528, Prosperity, Key of Love. It's an ebook available now, and the hard copy will be, God willing, out this summer of 2011. And that you see that this is, I think, our only hope. I think this is the way that nature balances, nature heals. For example, when a dog or cattle gets sick, they chew on grass. And there's something miraculous about that chlorophyll pigment. And what that is it's resonating in love and miracle. Even DNA repair is associated with this frequency of energy. So I think that there's great hope, especially for those who are intelligent, to think outside the box.
Thank you, Len. Diane, you have a question.
Yes, I do. First of all, thank you, Dr. Horowitz, for being there for us tonight. It's been fantastic so far. Now, have there, to your knowledge, been any successful class actions against government for the possible damage done by vaccines, or are there any pending?
No, I don't think that there's been anything that's been successful. A lot of people have tried a lot of things, and in terms of the class actions, I think probably the most successful was when the nurses union in New York told the CDC and the governor of the state to go shove their mandatory H1N1 vaccination in 2009. That was a good win, but in recent weeks you may have heard that we have had a very, very corrupt senior justice and Supreme Court justice in the United States that had advanced the ruling that the liability for vaccine injury shall not be to the drug industry, that we the people have to realize and get used to that not only do the medical doctors have a full license to kill, but now the drug industry and vaccine industry have a full license to kill without any threat associated with class actions or litigation. And that I can also tell you that the program that was established to help families that have vaccine-injured children is a complete fraud, a total scam. It was from the very beginning. I exposed that in my book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola, and even subsequent texts talked a little bit about how the National Vaccine Information Center in the United States that is primarily advanced by drug industry lobbyists and pharma whores, even people that most of the grassroots trusts, like Barbara Loe Fisher, has basically sold out from the very, very beginning. So, although you hear her and you read about her in a lot of different places claiming to be an advocate for we the people and our families and this National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 that she pushed forward in support of the drug industry lobbyists and lawyers that she worked with was a fraud from the beginning, and now after all these years has proven itself to be just that. There's been hundreds and hundreds of thousands of families who have had injured children who had asked for help and had hired lawyers who had attempted class action litigations that have simply failed. It's devastating emotionally and financially, and most hideously, it's genocide against our families, our children, and it's sick, but it speaks to the level of malicious genocidal malfeasance within our governments, our judicial systems, and most horribly, our own grassroots organizations that we feel we can trust have been infiltrated and that are untrustworthy.
Well, thank you. That's that's very interesting. And sort of along the same lines, do you have any advice for young parents when it comes to being forced to vaccinate their children or face the prospect of not being able to enroll them in educational